All right.
All
We are
right.
live, episode 8 of the Body Geeks podcast. A little bit of a lag there, but still keeping it going. So I'll preface by saying I've had some internet issues all day today. Hopefully it doesn't affect this podcast. I have my remote hotspot on standby and currently on Wi-Fi. So I think we're okay, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
if you guys hear random noises, it's because my dogs just woke up. So if you see this going on at all, it's because the dogs are about to start World War III. So it's about that time for them. and their mom's not here. So I got no babysitter. So it's all me.
Has Roddy taken alpha, or who's the alpha?
Yeah, Roddy's definitely the alpha. That was pretty much set up almost immediately. And there was like little stuff here and there, and then every now and then he'd kind of like get on him here or there, but it was a lot less crazy than I expected. So thankfully there wasn't like any blood, or there wasn't any, still knock on wood, you know what I mean? Like, cause they're boys and they've still both got their balls, but,
Yeah.
luckily it wasn't as big of a situation as I thought it was going to be. And, we were both pretty nervous for it, but I think it's also cause he's older. He's a little more relaxed, he's a little more cranky. Like still, if you like get, in the way of his sleep, or you're trampling on him while he's sleeping, he'll get a little annoyed. But other than that, he's pretty understanding.
Yeah, that's Barkley's still very much the alpha too.
Yeah.
Except Louis will, like, if Barkley's really on him, because he's just a little jerk, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he just tries to punk Louis, and if I give him treats, Barkley won't eat his. Louis will eat it before it leaves my hand. Like he swallows it just right away.
Right.
Barkley though, he'll like sit there and put it on the floor and just growl at Louis. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
why are you being such a jerk, And
Yeah,
so
just eat it, dude.
sometimes Louis gets impatient, which scares me because I'm like, Louis can end him with one bite,
Right.
But for the most part, Louis still deathly afraid of Barkley, so it's working for now. But it's I think I'm at the point where I wouldn't leave them alone together. Like, I mean, alone around the house is fine as long as somebody's home. But I mean, like,
right.
I wouldn't put them in like a yard alone together and just leave them.
Right.
Because I think Louis is now old enough that he might test Barkley and say, I'm the alpha now. And that would probably be the end of Barkley.
Yeah.
So, but if I'm around, or really just anybody's around, then if they start growling at each other, like even playfully, we're like, hey, knock it off. And they both are like, we're not doing nothing,
Right.
So,
Yeah. Just got to catch them in the act.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise they're good. So, dude, you had like a week vacation, right?
Yeah. I pretty much, it was, so the way our union works is usually if we have a holiday that's on the weekend, we'll get that Monday off. So what was it? Memorial Day was Monday anyway, but usually like that's how it'll work. Or we'll get like that Friday. So we have like random days, and every now and then we'll get some random days in the middle of the week. So this is my first time, which I heard one of my higher ups kind of say like, oh, take advantage of your time off, which is something I've never done in the past. I've always just gotten my paid hours, but just like, hey, we get time off, so use it. We get paid time off, and then on top of that, they were like, oh yeah, piggyback on your holidays. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I never thought about that. It's a really smart way to do it. And now that I'm sworn in, I'm like, oh, I try not to take advantage of it. This is actually my first vacation since like October, I think, or when was it? Yeah, it was like September or October. And this is my first as sworn in. So I actually think I only took 2 days, technically, but we had our day paid. So yeah, that turned into 6 days because I showed up on my website, and I'm technically a helper is what it's called, or like an apprentice. So we have to have a mechanic with us at the time, unless they can find work and send us to a different job site. So that day I showed up, there was some miscommunication. I was supposed to have somebody there that I was supposed to assist. And Tuesday I showed up, and, for whatever reason, things got mixed up. So I got sent home that day. So my 5-day turned into a 6-day. But
so do you, like, if
yeah.
you show up to work and get sent home, do you still get paid for the full day?
It depends. It depends on like where you're at, how many hours you do. I think how many hours you're there. Like that day I got compensated for like 2 hours, I think it's only if you can go do some work somewhere, they can find something for you to do for, pretty much the whole day. But usually you get like it's like 2 hours, and then I think your day rate, which is like your like I said, your zone. So I at least got my zone and stuff, which wasn't terrible. But got paid for part of it. And then we
Yeah.
also have like safety training hours and stuff. So we normally, well, now that things are opening back up, we might have our quarterly safety meetings, but we have a weekly thing that we're supposed to do, COVID stuff. Also just, basic tool inspection, all that stuff to keep on track of, so that it shows that you're doing like continuing education for our specific employer. And they'll have like quarterly meetings where they'll do a bunch of like new things that are going into place, and like I said, job site inspections, um, quality improvement, all that type of stuff. So those you can also put as hours too. So if I needed to, I could do my quarterly safety training, which is like another 2 hours, and I could put that and get paid for that too. So
Okay. Nice.
yeah, it works out.
Yeah, we kind of with the state we kind of operate similarly. Like if you show up to work and then you're sent home for whatever reason, I think you get compensated like a certain amount of hours.
Right.
That's like a minimum. And then same thing with like the time off. Like for us, if the holiday falls on a weekend and you don't work weekends normally,
Mhm.
then they usually what they do is they just give you holiday credit. So they'll give you 8 hours on the
Oh,
books
nice.
that you can then use kind of wherever you want. But then we
Oh,
also
that's cool.
have two what they call professional development days, or PDD for short, and we get two of those
Mhm.
annually, which is kind of cool because they're kind of just like free vacation days. Like you can use it for something, professional development is very like ambiguous.
Mhm.
So you could be like, I want to stay home and watch a YouTube video on personal finance. It's like, cool. You could take the day off and like it's paid for it. Uh, we also get one paid holiday per year. And then you start out, I think you get like, you could pick, but you get a certain amount of hours, like 8 hours of vacation, 7 hours of sick time. And then that grows like the more years you put in, you get more every month.
Right.
But then there's a thing where when you accumulate enough sick time, you could switch it over and you get like 15 hours of vacation every month.
Okay.
So because you can only use sick time for sick things, but vacation you could use whenever. So
Right.
that's what a lot of people do is for their first like, I don't know, 5 years, they'll bankroll all their sick time if they can. Um, and then when you have like a good chunk there, then they switch over to all the hours to be vacation time. And then the cool thing about vacation time too is if you bankroll that over the years and you don't use it, you can convert that to cash at the end when you retire. So
Oh,
like you get
nice.
paid for that no matter what, which is pretty cool. So, but yeah, it's I was in the same boat when I took like use my first vacation days or paid time off because I was so used to either being an hourly employee like when I was younger or then owning whatever I had. So like I could as an owner I could take whatever time off I needed to, but if I took time off, it usually means I was paying somebody else to work, right?
Right.
So this is the first time where I was like, I'm going to take time off and go on a vacation and still get paid to do it, while not having to be the owner, not having to incur any extra expenses or whatever else. So it's kind of a freeing feeling in a weird way. So when I see people like, you see all the Instagram memes of people like shit talking like, stable jobs, like good jobs or whatever, because everybody wants to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
Uh, I'm kind of like, the waters, they're not that bad over here, man. The stability is kind of nice. And having the perks like that, like
Right.
I'll take it, way less stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a meme that I saw, and it was, it cracked me up because it was one of those things like, it says like there's two names. I think it was like Adam and Chris or something like that. And they're like, it was just like left and right. One guy's like just sitting there reading or something, and the other guy's like in a construction hat. And then it says like Chris went to school for 4 years, and Chris does this, and Chris, has owes $100,000 in student loans, and Chris currently is unemployed or something like that. And then Chris has been told that guys like Adam, something something, and then like it says Adam went to a 4-year mentorship program and apprenticeship program. Adam is making 80K a year, and then it's like Adam shut off Chris's electric bill
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Chris can't pay his and I was like, damn, that's pretty true.
Yeah, that's one thing I've seen like firsthand with I look at there's a thing called Cal HR, which is the
Mhm.
website like that you go through to apply for all state jobs. So you can go
Right.
on there
Right.
and you could search jobs by county. You can see all the ones like, and so sometimes I go on there and especially with me, like, my passion is in fitness, right? Like all my work experience and stuff is owning stuff in fitness.
Right.
And like almost none of that applies to really anything else with the exception of like business, right? So I can say, oh, I have business experience and analytical experience, whatever else that comes with that. But I look at all of the the careers with the state and I explore a lot because I'm like, well, maybe it is worthwhile if I like go back to school to get this, credential or whatever for this job or you name it. And that's one of the things where it made me really think back, like if I had known more about like real life whenever I was in college, you could really focus on what you study because that meme is a perfect example. Like there's so many people who are getting a college education just because that's what they thought they're supposed to do. And I'm not,
Right.
downplaying college education at all. I'm an academic guy. Like I actually like school, as long as it didn't get in the way of my bodybuilding, which I didn't like it then. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I enjoy learning and I value education. But the key there is knowing how to value your education. So like if you're going through a blue collar route where you're actually going through like a trade school, you're a paid apprenticeship where you're making money as you're earning credentials and
Right.
the ability to do a certain job, like that's brilliant, especially when you're not incurring any sort of student loan debt. However, at the same time, like, Beck is an RN and she incurred massive student loan debt, but it gave her that licensure that allows her to make a ton of money as an RN. So I'm like, okay, well, going to RN school is worth it financially.
Yeah.
But to get like a ton of student loan debt to go to like a UC to major in like liberal studies or whatever, that's like I've learned firsthand by looking at Cal
Right.
HR that just having a college degree in something that's not like specific to a job, meaning like RN, you need a license to practice, right? Like
Right.
all of those. It doesn't really unlock a whole lot of doors for you. Like for example, I'm an analyst, a government analyst, right? And there's 3 pay scales for it. There's one that starts out at $1,000 less than the highest, right? And then the middle one's in the middle. So if you don't have a college degree, you start at pay scale 1. After a year, you go to pay scale 2. And then after a year, you go to pay scale 3. So it would take you 3 years to get to pay scale 3, right? But if you have a college degree, you start at
Right.
pay scale 3. And it's like $1,000 a month difference. So that's where I was like, all right, well, my college degree is worth it in that sense. Like it did unlock that higher pay scale for that. And it does unlock some jobs that require a degree. But when I look at the salaries, I'm like, man, if I had, like, I don't have any student loan debt and I'm grateful for that. But if I had even like 30 or $40,000
Right.
of student loan debt or whatever the average is, that extra little bit of money every month it's really not comforting. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
really not even probably barely enough to pay your student loan payment every
Yeah.
month, after taxes. So it's like, eh, give or take. But so lesson to the listeners, if you're going to go to college, my advice would be to get a degree that provides some sort of licensure or specific credential for a specific career, even if it's not one you want to do immediately, but paying for that gives you a career that you can fall back on. Getting a generalized degree doesn't really unlock as many doors as you'd think. So it's really not worth the money,
Yeah. It's
sadly.
not like I mean, I don't really know because I didn't get a 4-year degree, but I would say there was maybe a sweet spot between I I mean, what would you say? Maybe like 2008 to 2012 or so at the latest was probably that sweet spot where like I would say that ended of that like 4-year degree if like you had a 4-year degree. Even then, like I remember most of the people that were my age were done with college around 2008 or so, and then they were already getting into their graduates programs and stuff because they were like, oh yeah, my bachelor's doesn't do shit at and theirs was even in a specialized area or something like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe even as like I said, as late as like 2006 to 2008 was the last time where or maybe up leading up to that point where it's like, oh yeah, if you got a 4-year degree, you're pretty set and you can do this and you can do that. But I mean,
But I think what it was is that there was a lot fewer degrees. So when you went into like on your resume and you went to an interview, simply having a college degree was like you stood out because you were the unique person maybe that had it. But then, a bachelor's degree is not uncommon now. So when people are applying for jobs, and more than half of the applicants have degrees, it doesn't really help you stand out. Um, there's a saying now that says a master's degree is the new bachelor's, meaning like if you want to stand
Oh,
out for education, it really is that. But
right.
I mean, I think using the state as an example, like the state of California, the government, right, should be the institution that values education the most. You would think, right, that the government would value that the most. And so if your degree doesn't really help you stand out as like a candidate to start at, like, they do value it to a point, right? Like I said, I make a little more money because of my degree than if I didn't have it. And I'm available, I can apply to some jobs that I couldn't if I didn't have it. But the discrepancy in pay between them is really not enough to incur all that student loan debt.
Right.
And so I'm like, if the state of California doesn't value education that much, you think the private sector is going to care?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it comes down to experience, and that's really what it is. Is most employers are going to want somebody with experience, unless like the gig you got, because they're going to teach you to be a valuable employee. Like you got
Yeah.
on based on who you are as a person, how you interviewed, how you tested, and all that. And they're like, well, we don't really care about any sort of education you have because we're going to provide that for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is
So
some of that, and I would say still, with that, for the people that are, if something there is something you're passionate about, I would say look into, I mean, it's what, like people, I mean, I know it's kind of muddy waters now because people are like, oh, I'm not going to do an internship anymore. Like that's where like you make your connections and stuff. So like, looking in an early apprenticeship or early mentorship or something where even if it's not paid, you're doing something to make some ends meet. But, like I know there's tattoo apprenticeships and stuff like that, say that's something you're passionate about. Like looking into that where you can get into something early where you can study under somebody is probably going to be your best bet.
yeah.
And then in something like what I'm doing, I would say get into something that puts, I mean, it's weird with my thing, because I know some guys that got in because, they worked for a company and, that knew a guy that was into the industry or whatever, or, they were working non-union and then that's how they transitioned in. And but a lot of them, it's having some technical background. I think for me it was mostly my interviewing, and the fact that I passed the test that I needed to get to the interview process. But also there probably was a little of it that I had some general very basic construction with construction basics, as far as like knowing that for like the firefighting aspect, and going interior and fires and stuff like that, and structural components. But that, and maybe just having, I would say maybe being a first responder wasn't the thing that got me in. But I mean, there is maybe some things with that, some parallels that kind of help me get in there. But definitely, uh, I know there was, I mean, I was I don't even know, probably like in the late 300s or early 400s on the list. So there's guys that are finishing up their 4-year, that I was supposed, if I would have had all those accolades or whatever, I'd be finishing that up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm meeting some of those guys like, oh yeah, I was number 12 or I was number 8. And I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? But those guys were, people that are like, oh yeah, I worked on, aircrafts when I was in the military, when I was in Air Force, and there was guys like, oh yeah, I worked at Harley Davidson for, X amount of years. So definitely having something like that, like guys that I know, if I would have known, I would have got into, now I'm looking into getting like a welding certification. But just general stuff like that, if you are thinking about getting into the IUEC and all that, definitely having something like that will help for sure. But
So what advice do you have for our listeners that are maybe younger and they're passionate about bodybuilding or powerlifting, or anything like that? We've done so much in the fitness industry with a lot of that
right.
experience, and now we are where we are. What advice do you have for them as far as what, like, I don't know, I'm trying to picture us back at 20 years old. We have the dreams of being like the best powerlifter, best bodybuilder on the planet. Um, what would you say to them?
Man, it's tough, I mean, it's, I mean, looking back now, I would probably just say be smarter about, I guess, where to expend your energy, not necessarily so much with training. Yeah, that's definitely important. There was definitely a lot of things there where it was like, oh, I could have dotted my I's and crossed my T's a little better, maybe put more focus on, diet in the beginning, or more focus on training legs in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like from a meathead standpoint, just like little things to, it's just percentage differences. And that, I would say that that's probably the thing that, one of the things you taught me initially, when it was like, you're not looking so much for doing, trying to make huge things at once. You're just trying to do little things. You know what I mean? You're just trying to get better every single time. I remember, like, for you, every time you stepped on the stage, it was just, you just got better. It wasn't bigger is better, it's better is better. That was like always something that you explained to me, which is
So
like,
so you say like that philosophy of just progress, not perfection, right? It's a good way to say it. You would apply that to
yes,
all aspects of life, meaning even like what sort of career you're pursuing and
yes,
things like that. Okay.
yeah, definitely. Just something like, I mean, if you scratch something for a little bit, you're like, if you scratch a scab for a little bit, it's gonna be, it'll heal up and stuff. But if you keep scratching, eventually it'll become a scar, right? So I think it's the same thing with any one of those things. If you just, you're not trying to, scratch that scab all off at once. You know what I mean? You're just kind of picking at it, picking at it, picking at it. So every day, if you just keep picking at it with, oh, I'm going to add in a little bit of water. I'm gonna, instead of like going 6 days for my cheat meal, I'm gonna go 7 days, or just like little things like that. Instead of adding in 200 grams of carbs, for this next thing, I'm gonna just add 10, 10 a week for the next couple weeks or something like that. Just little things that, like, you can, like, just make small adjustments to
Well,
over time,
so
will
I
just
think,
add on.
yeah. So I think my question, I want it to be more focused on like what would you advise them to do, maybe career wise, school wise, or things like that, as they're pursuing all of that? Because I mean, we could talk for
Yeah.
years on, what creatine you should take and
Right. Right.
how to take it slow and make progress, which I'm sure we will. But I, I've spent a lot of time the last few years, really looking back on my career decisions, right?
Right.
Because I found a passion, found out, I love bodybuilding. I love powerlifting too, but bodybuilding was the first love. It's
Right.
I wouldn't have found powerlifting if it wasn't for bodybuilding, right? And so I knew that's what I wanted to do. But bodybuilding as a career is a horrible decision. And thankfully I
Yeah.
knew that back then. I was like, okay, well, the prize money in shows, the sponsorship money, even the magazine contracts and stuff, there's only like maybe a handful of people that make even a living with that. Even smaller amount that got rich off of it. So like that wasn't a good thing to pursue, because there's way too much risk and not enough upside, right?
Right.
So my thing is, I was in college and I was working in the supplement shop, and when I was working in that supplement store, I was making good money, especially for like a part-time job. My hourly rate was great.
Okay.
And comparing it to what a lot of the rest of the world was doing, I was sitting there going like, well, wait, I don't even have my college degree yet. And with my part-time college job, I make more per hour selling these supplements, which I'm good at, by the way. I'm good at this, right? Than a lot of people do with a full-time career right now. And I was like, so if I could just do this full time, like I know that this lifestyle of running a supplement store, working in a supplement store, will allow me to pursue bodybuilding. And that
Right.
was the plan. And so I kind of at that point just said like I was so too far invested in school to completely quit, that I was like, well, my roommate's getting a degree in criminal justice, so screw it. I'll get that. It's an easy degree, and then at least I have a 4-year degree, and not really having a passion for law enforcement. And I just kind of gave up on school whenever I made that decision. Not to say that if you have a criminal justice degree, you gave up on school, like, because if that's your passion, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, it just sounds like low hanging fruit, because what I really wanted to do was own a supplement store and bodybuild. And so, I then went on to own the supplement stores, own the gym, do the e-commerce stuff, do online coaching. I mean, like, kind of did a variety of things, tried to own some supplement companies. And I realized, like, the other day I was thinking about it, I'm pretty grateful that I have made money. I have had an income from the fitness industry since 2007. Every month of every year since 2007, I've had money coming in from fitness. So
Right.
obviously pursuing my passion led to something, but it didn't lead to enough. I've soon found out that once you own a business, that's what you do. I didn't own supplement stores. I wasn't having fun with supplements. I was running a business,
Right.
and running a business sucks. I mean, some people love it. If you love like focusing on money and you're kind of greedy, you're a bit of a douchebag, you're probably going to be good at it. No, I'm not dissing anybody that's good at business. I'm just saying, like, for me, my passion was not in, I didn't want to run a business. That wasn't the passion. The passion was in the gym and competing on stage and stuff, you know? And so hindsight being 2020, I realized that all I needed was something that provided me the ability, the lifestyle to pursue that dream. I didn't have to make that dream the thing that made the money. So, you know,
Right.
people that sometimes mix up their passion with the way they earn a living, sometimes it really sucks because it sucks the passion out of it. And if it doesn't make you extremely wealthy, it makes you bitter too. Cause that's where I ended up. I was like, man, I worked my ass off for my passion, you know, for these businesses, and like kind of got left holding nothing but debt at the end. And it was insanely depressing for a long time for me. And it took me a while to bounce out of it. So if I can go back and talk to myself in college right now, I would say to, you know, now granted, this is me being a college student already. If you haven't decided to go to college, then there are other options. I'm not saying go to college. However, if you are considering
Right.
college, you're already there, pick something that gives you a great career, even if you're not passionate about that, and have
Right.
that be a solid backup plan. You know, because I look at Becca now, like I said, she's an RN, and I had a good 2 years or so in college where I was taking those courses, and I was thinking of either majoring in biology and then going to med school, or going to nursing school, or sometimes physical therapy. Like I kind of ping ponged around in those, like, you know, different things. And what I should have done is I should have gone to nursing school, because now that I see what Becca's been able to do with the variety of jobs she's had, you could totally get a job as a nurse that is 100% supportive of your bodybuilding and powerlifting goals, and you'll make a shitload of money in the process. Now,
Yeah.
whether you do that route, you know, you finish school, say you're a nurse, and then you know, go on and just pursue that career, and then lift and pursue those passions as a hobby, a serious hobby, right? Trying to be the best in the world, even that's a great plan. That's fine. But even if you were to say, okay, I got my licensure as a nurse, or whatever, you know, it is, and I want to try being an online coach, or I want to try being an entrepreneur, and I want to pursue whatever. You could do that because you know that if shit hit the fan and you're left holding debt, like what happened to me, you then have something that pays a lot of money that you can fall back on. So for me, you know, I actually left early to go pursue these businesses. So I had to spend 2 semesters finishing that degree just so I can make a little bit extra money doing the same kind of boring job that I have now. And I'm happy because my life is happy. You know, I have a family, I have a daughter, I have passions. You know, things are stable. Like, I'm grateful for all of that. So I'm not going to say that I'm not grateful for where I ended up and how I landed. Um, but I had to go through a lot of, like, I guess, dark days to kind of get to where I'm at now. You know, financially, mentally, emotionally, whatever else you want to call it. And a lot of it, I think I just look back, and I had so much momentum going into college. Where I made my mistake was dropping my logic and pursuing my heart completely. So, you know, don't drop the logic. If you're in school, get something that, you know, I think off the top of my head, nursing, anything medicine that requires a credential.
Yeah.
Even if you're going to school, like you said, getting a welding certificate, getting different things like that, that just, those give you so many more opportunities. And after having competed and coached people to compete and everything else, there is not very many jobs that you couldn't compete with. Whenever I was in the middle of it, you know, back then, I thought most jobs would get in my way, because I thought for some reason I needed to spend the whole day focusing on my food and going and getting massages and training twice a day and all this crazy, try not to curse as much, all this crazy stuff. And in reality, you just got to train for like 1 to 2 hours a day, two tops, right? Even
Yeah.
with cardio, and you got to eat your food. And 90% of the jobs, maybe even 98% of the jobs, 99 possibly, will allow you to eat all the food you need to eat to bodybuild or to powerlift,
Yeah.
and then you could train either before or after work. It's not that hard. And it's a complete lifestyle that would totally work to help you. So uh, I don't know. I'm just hoping that maybe, we've been getting like 50 to 100 views on each episode, but these will grow someday. And I'm hoping if I can
Yeah.
get one kid, one young person to hear me out on this and go, you know what, man, you're right. I'm going to focus on my career separately, my financial career separately than my bodybuilding or powerlifting career. You will be so much happier down the road that you did that. And it won't disrupt your dream of pursuing bodybuilding or powerlifting at all. So there's my little spiel. I don't know. We got
Yeah.
to this point. I
It,
just got to get that out.
no, yeah, I feel you. And that's, I think that's where it was hard for me to, because I'm just like, I know I took so many different routes, and I mean, for me, the biggest thing was, I mean, early on, I was looking for a, something stable and something that was consistent, and also something with benefits, you know what I mean? And pretty much most of the jobs I applied for over that period of time were stuff that had salary and, hourly and stuff like that. Um, Especially, things that had union, you know what I mean? Being a union worker. And part of that was just because my father was in a union, and my dad was a firefighter, and I just always saw the benefits from it, what it did not just for him but for the family, uh, and covering everybody, you know what I mean? So I think that was always something for me. I know that's not going to be something for everybody. um, I would maybe say take a, like you said, there's a lot of things that you can do with a lot of different various types of jobs. For me, just for example, when I was an EMT, I was making shit money, because EMTs make shit money in California. We could probably go into that someday. But I mean, for that, I probably did, 3 or 4 different types of styles of eating, you know what I mean? And because my hours were always changing, and I was still able to compete, I was still a strong competitor, and made progress and all that stuff. And that was even when I switched from being a more of a bodybuilding style to competing as a powerlifter. And there was shifts where I worked 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. So for me, I was like, I'm not going to change up all of my hourly eatings just to do that. So that was when I was like, hey, I'm going to try intermittent fasting. So I basically fasted, from starting that shift from 4 a.m. and I ate my first meal at noon, and back then it was like noon, 4 and 8. So I had my 8-hour window from noon to 8 p.m. So I didn't eat, and in the beginning, yeah, it sucked, you know what I mean? But it was something I tried, and it was something I saw benefits from. And, it was something I experimented with. And then, there was periods of times where I was working 1 or 2 24-hour shifts a week. So same thing. Yeah, I would get slammed every now and then, and I wouldn't be able to eat meals, but it was like, hey, I can down a shake in between calls if I needed
Yeah.
to, like there was always a way to do it, and like you said, it didn't need to be, if you miss a meal within 15 minutes to a half hour, there goes, your there goes your championship win. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really not that serious. You know what I mean? There's something to do. So I would say, like you said, definitely something medical, because there's lots of stuff you can get within even as little as, I mean, I don't know about CNAs or stuff like that. Um,
I would only say to go CNA if you wanted to be an RN, because CNAs
right.
don't make a whole lot of money, and so it's
No,
really only about
no.
the experience.
Yeah, I was more thinking in terms of how fast you could do something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But yeah, like just, I mean, just because of my experience, I mean, if you really got to it, I know there's EMT classes now that I want to say are like, you can knock them out in a month. I mean, they're crazy schedules. Like I knew a girl I went to high school with who did it, and I think hers was like 20 or 30 days, but she was like in class 8 hours a day or something
yeah.
crazy, like Monday through Friday, I think even some Saturdays. So, I mean, really, if she would have done that and then taken her national registry, she might have been on the job in 60 days. You know what I
And
mean?
the craziest thing is you can keep training and eating throughout all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
100%. You know what I
Like
mean? Like, but
that's
she was, yeah, she was working, and like I said, she could be an EMT within 60 days. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so there's your medical right there. You know, if you want, and then that could eventually lead in the ER tech, and then an ER tech, you know, or a emergency tech. You're working in the ER, and you're working in the hospital, and you are working a similar shift to like a nurse. It's like 3 12s, you know what I mean? Or it's 12 hours. So then you can get overtime, all that stuff. And, you know, you can eat your meals in between, you have breaks. And then like, you know,
and
so I,
it's probably positions that come with benefits and unions and everything that we
yeah,
talked about, which
yeah,
I mean, when you're younger, you don't give a shit about those things.
no,
Like, you know, but then all of a sudden you grow up and you're like, man, especially as a bodybuilder or powerlifter, you realize how important health insurance is.
yeah,
And then you realize how expensive health insurance costs. So
yeah,
when you find a career that provides health benefit coverage, like, you know, I currently, man, working for the state, I make $4,200 a month,
mm,
which is nothing compared to what I've made being the fitness guy, you know, with what, you know, all my sources
right,
of income. However, that's for a 40-hour work week. And when I was an entrepreneur, I didn't work less than 60 hours a week. That was like
yeah,
an easy week. It's usually at least 6 days a week. And it's usually 10, 12, or 16-hour days. Like you're just always, you're on vacation, you're answering phone calls, answering emails, and you're always
yeah,
just constantly working on stuff. And like, anyways, point being is like $4,200 a month. But then whenever I factor on the pension and the health insurance and the paid time off and the schedule, add all in it, but get rid of the schedule and the paid time off and just factor in the added benefits, right, of health insurance and the pension. I was like, man, that's like making almost 8 grand in the private sector. You know, that's like,
yeah,
because you factor in that much, take taxes out, and how much do I have to invest to have the same degree of retirement as what the pension provides, and how much does health insurance cost? I was like, man, so you know that's I'd have to make that much money in the private sector, and it would have way less stability. You know, so really the only sacrifice I'm making is that the work is boring. You know, working for the government is boring. Just I'm sure there's some fascinating stuff I'll come across. There's been a few times where some work got interesting and it was kind of cool to learn things, but you know, I guess I don't want to rant and rave on this too long. I just I had somebody kind of a younger guy that I'm coaching, and he's still in college and kind of figuring it out. And it just kind of made me think of all this stuff. And you know, I see people all the time with passion for fitness, and the first thing people go to is like, well, I want to be an influencer, an online coach, and I'm going to get rich like a lot of the YouTubers. But in reality, like if you sat down and listed all the people that you follow on social media that you think are millionaires because of it, the list isn't going to be very long.
no,
And there's a shitload of people competing for that space. Now, I'm not saying not to do it. You know, like obviously
yeah,
I still do it. You know, Mason still coaches people. Like, you know, we still are trying to build upon, like, I guess, passions. So, right, we're still trying to build upon side incomes and things that we're doing.
right,
But don't go full in on that without having a safety net. And I know
yes,
all the motivational speakers will tell you, don't, no plan B, just plan A. Well, I tried that. It didn't work for me and it sucks. I wish I had a backup plan. I wish I had a safety net,
yeah,
you know? So um, I just, it made me think of all that. And I'm like, man, if I can go back and do it all differently, I would have focused way more on a career outside of my passions, one that just allowed me to pursue my passions. And I believe that I probably would have been more successful as a bodybuilder because everything you do at that point is pure enjoyment. Once you start mixing your business with it, it sucks the passion out of it. And the next thing you know, the gym is work. You know, next thing you know, you're in the gym handing out business cards
yes,
because you're trying to promote your training or your coaching or your supplements or whatever the hell you're doing,
right.
and you're not there for fun anymore, and it sucks. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and yeah. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. You know, like you said, just find, I mean, it's fine to, you know, try to build that extra side business or whatever it is you're doing, if it's, you know, entrepreneurship or your YouTube or anything like that. But like you said, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a safety net, you know what I mean? And there's so many, like you said, out there that I don't think people realize that don't take a long time. You know, really 4 years is a drop in the bucket. I mean, at almost any age, really, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you
It
know,
doesn't
how,
feel like it when you're younger, but man,
no,
as you age, there's actually a thing where your perception of time changes as we age.
right.
And that's why time feels like it starts going by faster. It's just because our perception changes. Our brain doesn't record as many like moments throughout the day as important because you've kind of been through it so much. So it feels like things just fly. But yeah, like, I mean, dude, Riley's over 3. And like, if so, I've almost had her as much as, well, okay. Most people, it takes them like 5 years to finish college, but still my point is like,
Mhm.
that has flown by.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was in college for like 20 years in comparison to the 3 years that have gone by with her and
Yeah.
recently. So yeah, you're 3 to 5 years of like investing in your future when you're younger. It's going to go by so fast. So
Yeah, yeah, and just like we said, like I said, I mean, really, you can be doing something medical, within about 60 days. To, there's root. What is it? X-ray tech, I think, is 2 years. What is it?
respiratory tech is another
Yeah,
one.
respiratory tech, like another 2 years.
Yeah.
There's so many of those things that are really quick, when you actually look at the amount of time, and you can make decent money.
When
And
there's
then
also
same,
like you said, CNA, there's CNA to LVN and LVN to RN programs. So you can
right,
work as a nurse the whole time, built, earning money, gaining
getting
experience,
experience.
and continuing your education as you do all of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's one last thing on that topic of what I would do differently is I think of all of the money I wasted on stupid shit.
Yeah.
Um, and I've learned a lot more about investing for the future. I've actually been investing with Ray and
Okay.
trying to learn a lot from him. And
I've actually been
on
thinking about hitting him up.
yeah, no, do it. He's great, man. And I mean, at least with me, like, because you know how I am. Like when I get into something, I'm gonna read all about it. I'm gonna learn a
Yeah,
ton
yeah,
of
yeah.
shit, and I'm just gonna. So for him, like I just kind of shoot out my ideas and like shoot out the things I've learned, and he's kind of being more like a mentor of like correcting me along the way, right? But
Okay.
uh, one of the things that I've learned is how easy it is to actually invest into the stock market in a safe manner of
Mhm.
like, just setting it up and investing in like a index fund that grows on average, 10% a year, right? So what does 10% a year mean? If you had
Jeez.
$1,000 in it, right, it's going to be 1,100 at the end. Okay. So that's, you think of
That's
like,
that's significant.
yeah. So if you had $100,000 in there, $10,000 is going to grow at the end of the year, and it
Right.
compounds, right? Because like it starts growing faster the more money you have in there. So time is obviously like that per year. The more years you have, uh, obviously the more money you're going to make. So
Right.
for people like us in our 30s, by the time we retire at 65, right, or whatever retirement age is, we still have plenty of time, a lot more than other people. But man, that extra like 10 to 15 years can make so much of a difference. So, we didn't mess up by any means. Life
Yeah.
experiences, spend money on whatever. But with my kids, like as soon as they're earning income,
Yeah.
uh, they will be investing. I
Right.
don't care if it's $5 or $10 a month or whatever you're doing. Like, so that's what I would do is I would tell myself, cause I was living paycheck to paycheck a lot of the times, but then there were definitely, especially towards the end, as I was like working more or getting paid more per hour or whatever, as you progress as an adult, you start making more usually in your field. Um, I would have told myself to start, like I said, $5, $10, $20, whatever you could do, maybe don't eat In-N-Out Burger post workout tonight and go home and cook and invest that $15 this month or $10 or whatever it was at the time, in there and just let it stack up. Because if I had done that starting back, you know, when I was 18, 19 years old, I would have almost 15 years of investing money into the account that I'm trying to build now. And that compounding interest would have grown it to a significant amount. And I would be in a lot better position because of it. So there's that quote, do something today that your future self will thank you for.
Right.
And those are two things that, strictly speaking, as a bodybuilder, as a power lifter, it applies to everybody, but you have a passion for lifting, you have a passion for bodybuilding or powerlifting and whatever you want to do, even if your passion is personal training or whatever, pursue that, but plan for something in the real world. Sorry, in the normal world, not the real world. Lifting is real too. In the normal world, plan that out and plan for something, because it's nice to have that as a backup plan, and start saving and investing yesterday, and just chip in a little bit, pennies in there, and it will all add up. And that's, if you can have that level of security, it will make you that much better as a competitor. I have 100% no doubt about that. especially when I encounter my like older clients that have a lot of money and like they have no problem buying any of the supplements I tell them to buy. It's almost like they have unlimited ability, like to pursue their competition because they made all the right decisions when they were younger to be financially stable when they're older.
Right.
So I'm like, you could do that. You could spend your early 20s doing that and be set for life, you know, and not have to worry about stuff anymore. But I don't know. I don't want to harp on this. It's a financial podcast episode.
No, I mean, hey, but I mean, there's a lot of gems in there. You know what I mean? Like, I think in summary, it's just like, you know, I think we talked a lot about medical. I would say, I think early on learning some type of trade, whatever it is, masonry or, you know, carpentry or something like that. Something you know, just because I mean, there's so many different avenues you can go down with one of those things, and you can eventually just like I a guy that I was in you know, apprentice firefighter with. He's you know, hired on and all that, but I mean, he was welding, and this was almost, you know, 10 years ago, and like the guy has like a sick welding shop, and you know, he's had this like shop back then, and so he's doing that as a side business. You know what I mean? Like
But you know,
just little things like that. Like
my favorite thing about a lot of the trades is that if you are entrepreneurial at all, like, you know, whether it be some off the top of my head, right, like carpentry, electric,
right,
you know, electrician, plumber, um, welder, like all of those jobs, you can get a union job or whatever, you know, work for a
right,
company, but
right,
then you can also work on the side
yeah,
doing it. And so a lot of people I know that have done that, they invest in the tooling to do it, right? They have the skills, they have the credentialing, they got their stable union job, they do stuff on the side and they invest in these tools. And that's such an amazing thing because you invested in all of these assets. So, you know, like you may at the end of the day say you've been welding forever and you don't want to do it anymore and you do something else. The business that you built, you may have 20 or $30,000 worth of tools that you can then sell to
right.
put into whatever your next venture is. So the trades are awesome like that because you know, mechanics are the same way, which mechanics don't get paid a whole lot unless they own their own business or whatever. But
Yeah.
you know, they invest so much in the tools and it's such a nice thing. Like imagine if the supplements didn't expire and all the supplements I had in my supplement store remained an asset that I could then
Right.
sell afterwards. Like, you know, unfortunately for me, like they had expiration dates or they sold with the you know, business or whatever. So it's, you know, and I didn't have, I guess I had a good chunk of inventory, but not the same as like investing in tooling that lives
Right.
for a long, long time, you know?
Yeah. That's yeah. I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, like that's I think one of those things. Like I think in those two fields, especially, there's just so many different things you can go down that will like we said, will you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you could still work on your side business and still work on your YouTube and you know all that type of stuff.
Yeah. And I'd say like all the side stuff, like, you know, coaching, training, and don't get me wrong, like you could build a full-time career coaching and training and stuff.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have done it, especially in LA. I've met a lot
Yeah.
of personal trainers that are personal trainer forever. And I know some that hit it big. Stan McQuay being one of them, right? Trained Dr. Dre and a lot of other celebrities and,
Right.
you know, did really well. But I also know a lot of them that have been like private personal trainers for 20 something years that are broke as shit
Yeah.
and still struggling.
Right.
And they don't know they don't have any extra skills or education or anything else they can fall back on. So they're just kind of stuck doing that. And it's always kind of a crappy place to be in, you know?
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? I said something. I had a point. Oh man. Oh yeah. Like I'll use this for an example. Okay. If now, granted, I keep my coaching clientele like between 10 to 15 people because
Right.
that's all I can handle time wise because I'm focused on my family and my other career and everything else. Right. But let's say this podcast gets super popular and Body Geeks blows up and it becomes massive and it starts making crazy money. It
Yeah.
would have to make good money to the point where it did it consistently for a while and I could stash enough invested for me to walk away from the state job.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's how much stability matters when, like, especially once you have a family
Right.
and as you get older and things like that. So, you know, I'm going to be working on this. I can't wait. The websites, I get another update tomorrow from the builder. So it's coming along. It's almost done. I can't wait for that because I am going to try and build traffic. I do want more views on these videos. I do want more interaction on Instagram. I do want more traffic to the website. Not necessarily because I want to pick up more coaches, but I mean more clients. But I would love for that. I got some ebooks. I'd love for those to sell. I'd love for merchandise to sell. Like, who wouldn't love to make money doing this? Right? This is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is really cool.
But point is I have my career, and I'm doing this as well, and I could pursue this in all my spare time, and I could build it and grow. And if it gets to the point where I could do just this, I would, and it would be great. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to drop everything else that I'm doing and go all in on this, because I've seen too many people try to be influencers, too many people try to be trainers, too many people try to be online coaches,
Right.
and have it only ever just fizzle, just be okay, just get by. And I want more than that for my family, So that's the advice is, if you want to go all in on your fitness stuff, by all means do it, but make sure you got the safety net. Make sure you have something else ready to go, because you don't want to end up like the people that, after 10 or 15 years and you got nothing going on, and you got to build it, you start over again. Like,
yeah,
you could do it, but it sucks. Mason and I both done it, and it's not fun.
Yeah. Take it from somebody who started over maybe like 5 times in the last 3 years. You know what I mean? But I think I would say to I had a word that was, no, I'm brain dead right now, but I had basically like something just saying I would actually beg to beg to differ, or beg to, I'm trying to think of basically without being fucking too wordy. God damn it. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is I would actually say you're doing yourself a disservice by marrying yourself to, say, something like a bodybuilding or something like a powerlifting, going all in, like just off the get-go. I know that sounds like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I would actually say you're doing a disservice to just jumping into that full force, versus like having that safety net of like what we're talking about. I would say if we would have done these things sooner, we would actually be more successful athletes in the long run.
Mhm.
Because we would, there was, I literally missed a competition because I couldn't figure out how I was going to pay for food and rent. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't for the lack of me working. I was working my ass off. At this time, I think I was working 3 jobs at the time. You know what I mean? This isn't for that. This is because, like anything, if you want to relate it to bodybuilding or something like that, or relate it to, whatever, you have to, everything starts with a solid base and a solid foundation. And if you're weak financially because you're married to whatever idea, passion, you know what I mean? Like, that is going to flounder, and everything else is going to flounder, and you're going to be, like left with nothing. You're going to be left with
You're going to be
dust and ashes,
stressed out and struggling, and that's going to affect your training and your eating and your physique.
Exactly.
And everything. And
exactly. But
it's also one of those things like, look, if your dream is to be a personal trainer, there are careers in personal training that you can do outside of being an entrepreneur. So like, if your dream is to be a personal trainer, or your dream is to be an online coach, or your dream is to be these things that we're kind of shitting on, there's nothing wrong with pursuing that and having that dream. But if your dream is to be a competitive bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, or to be a power lifter and setting records, if your dream is one of those two things, that's different. That's different than your dream of being an online coach or a personal trainer. Okay. So like, it's very important to separate that, because a lot of people see competitors and they see them coaching and they see them training, and they're like, oh, like, I want to do that. Now, if your dream is to be a personal trainer, by all means, pursue whatever careers. I know like there's some, I want to say Equinox used to be a company where you could make 6 figures being a trainer for them. So like, and they had benefits and different things involved. So like that, there are options out there that are like stable things that you could do outside of just being a private personal trainer, which again can be great if you have the clientele, but it can also come crashing down to nothing if you don't. Same thing with online coaching. You can build that up, and you could build a whole career out of it. So if those are your career focuses, by all means, that's fine. But I'm talking to the competitors, the people that are truly passionate about competing. If you're truly passionate about competing, the best thing you could do financially is to actually have a career outside of fitness. Now, there's kind of a catch-22 there, because in my opinion, the best coaches and the best trainers are the people who are the best athletes in these respective sports,
Right.
not the person that's like, oh, I did a couple men's physique shows and now I'm an online coach and, by coaching for me or whatever, so like, or the people that haven't even competed and they're just like, they've, congrats, you're a 24-hour fitness trainer for 6 months and now you think you can coach people. Like, um, yeah, it's just make sure you know how to separate those things, because I messed that up and I didn't. And I ended up owning some supplement stores that sure were great. I was good at it. I liked it and it was fun while it lasted, but that wasn't my passion. That wasn't my dream. My dream was to be a bodybuilder. And so it would have behooved me to, like that word,
Yes.
to, look for a normal career outside of fitness, and to focus on building that separately while I still pursue my bodybuilding dream. Because there's something very freeing to be able to hit the gym, buy your supplements, train and whatever, and not have to make it. You could spend your money on that, spend money on competing, spend money on the hobby, and truly love it and enjoy it and be more successful because of it. So,
yeah, I think to finalize it, if one of the great, well, I would say, I mean, it depends on who you ask, but I saw you put up that picture today of Cutler,
with Coleman and Dexter Jackson.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just going to give these two examples because this is like, I think goes into what we were saying. So Ronnie Coleman was a cop. You know what I mean? So he had his pension. He had his,
for his first,
you know what I mean? Like, if it,
and it's important to note too, he was a cop as Mr. Olympia. Like I think
yes,
he was a cop throughout like his whole bodybuilding career, but then he won Mr. Olympia. And I think the second year he was like a reserve cop or something for a couple years after that. So he was still actively working as a police officer for his first few years as Mr. Olympia. And then he finally, at that point, I think went to being just full-time bodybuilder, probably because he was like 390 pounds and couldn't fit in the uniform anymore. But, yeah, sorry for interrupting, but perfect example.
Oh, no. Yeah. But I was going to say, like, there's that. If you look at Stipe Miocic, former heavyweight champion of the world in the UFC MMA fighter, he's a fireman. This is for a powerlifting example. I think everybody's seen this guy, Doug Young, right? Doug Young, from what I understand, I think Doug Young like worked on the railroads. He might have been like a train conductor or something crazy like that. I'm about 80 to 90% sure that's what Doug Young did. But Doug Young, I mean, almost every powerlifter has seen this picture and either knows Doug Young, but just knows this guy was a fucking monster. You know what I mean? Yeah. And same thing. This guy had a foundation, a base of something that was going to help him. But the biggest thing was he had that financial basis and that financial base and that financial foundation to help what it is that he wanted to do. You know
yeah. I mean? And I can also, like, going back to that picture, Jay Cutler is another good example to look at. Yeah. Now, Jay found success and popularity in bodybuilding towards the end of the 90s. As a young guy, college age, like I want to say, by when he was doing TNAS at 19, he was already like blowing up. By 2021, he had magazine deals and supplement contracts and everything else. And he was friends with, I believe, Chris Aceto, who's known in investing in real estate. And Jay has made a lot of money from bodybuilding with his endorsements, everything else. He's a great businessman. He's probably the best ambassador as a bodybuilder that we've ever had. Yeah, best businessman as a bodybuilder and everything else. But he made his money investing in real estate. That was like the thing he started doing, and then just became a businessman investing because he got that nest egg. He got that money that he then invested wisely, and then that's really where he makes his money is by where his money is invested and what he's investing in. What you see on his social media and how he earns his revenue and everything else, I'm sure is doing great for him. But I would, now granted, I don't know Jay personally, and so I can't speak for him, but I would venture to guess that the money that he's making, however it's coming in as far as cash flow, is being invested, and that investment is making more money for him. So, if you see his videos, he actually did one, I think last week, where he shows off his car collection. He's got like the Lamborghini truck and, some G-Wagons, and, he lives a very like wealthy lifestyle. But he doesn't live that way just simply based off of earnings from being a bodybuilder. And we're also talking about Jay Cutler, who for the last, 20 years has been at least the top two bodybuilders on the planet, if not the, Mr. Olympia, or, the last 7 years, probably still the main figurehead in bodybuilding, even in his retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was another one I was gonna say. Oh, then you look at guys like Cedric McMillan or Dave Henry, right?
Yeah.
As bodybuilders,
Right.
they're competing as full-time military, So like if there's one job that is going to be most demanding on telling you what you can and can't do with your time, it's the military,
Right. Right.
and they're still able to compete as professional bodybuilders.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be enough, throw all excuses out the window right there and say, yeah, you could literally compete with any career at that point,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
100%. I 100% back that.
yeah. And I think too, a lot of people are worried about labor jobs affecting training. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, like obviously anything you do that's extra physical is probably going to have a certain effect on your training. But here's the thing. If you build your training program around that,
Yes.
it's going to suck in the beginning, but then your body's going to adapt to it. You'll probably become even more of a badass because of it.
Yeah.
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 So if you're willing to go to the gym multiple times a day, but you're not willing to do a labor job and train, come on. Like, what
Right.
the hell?
Yeah. I used to be scared of that too, but I mean, I competed in my first meet a day after I did a heavy workout in full turnout gear. You know what I mean? On oxygen. I was swinging a hammer around, and I remember like my forearms were so tight, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be able to deadlift tomorrow." You know what I mean? Like, but I did. You know what I mean? Like, it's doable. You know what I mean? And like you said, there was, what was it? I think it was Brandon Lilly, or no, it was in 531. Actually, it was one or the other, but I'm pretty sure it was in 531. Jim Wendler gave the example of, a farmer isn't going to go and like compensate or do all these like periodizations and stuff for his, if he's got to throw around haystacks all day every single day, eventually his body's going to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be like, okay, I do 12 haystacks this day, 4 haystacks, have a medium day. You know what I mean? Like, every day you just got to get up, wake up, and like bust your ass when you're something like that. You know what I mean? And eventually your body will, like you said, figure it out. And little by little, like we said, if you don't start out on a full sprint, you basically like little by little accumulate. Eventually your body will figure it out. You know
Which
what I
goes
mean?
back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast.
That's how you get
Perfect.
Yeah.
Way to bring it full circle.
It's like a circle. Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me. That movie's funny.
I can't believe we talked about that for like an hour. I wasn't expecting this podcast to go down that rabbit hole, but
I know I could keep going. But yeah, maybe next one I'll talk about my vacation a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I plan to talk about in this podcast. Is I was like, I figured you had some interesting stuff to talk about, but we somehow got off on this topic and trying to tell the future generations to get a job. We're old, man. What's going on?
We sound so old.
You guys like bodybuilding? Get a job.
Get a job. I don't care if you don't want to work minimum wage. Get a job.
Trust me. Now that we have jobs, you have to be like us.
Yeah, trust me. You're gonna be on. You're gonna be on at some kids someday, telling them to get a job too.
Yeah, get off my lawn and get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, dude, I've been feeling like, I don't know what's going on. I've been a little like rowdy lately. Like, dirty Gertie. I've been like trying to keep him in his cage.
Yeah, I've been noticing.
Yeah, I've tried to keep it mellow, but I've been I don't know. So, I think that's the other thing that kind of comes with getting older is like you have more experience, you get a little more intelligent, hopefully, like,
yeah, hopefully.
And you start learning how things work, and you start realizing how kind of broken things are, and you're like, man, that's it just makes me a little irritable. But I've been channeling at the gym. Things been good. Like strength is going up because of that. Like I get up early and I'm cranky anyways, and then I'm just like irritated and just go throw some heavy weights around, and I'm growing, getting heavier and whatever. But I'm trying, like, they had this memo come out at work where it basically was like, hey, you could be held accountable for what you post on social media. And like, you could be terminated for it. Now it kind of got sent out because, if you're a government employee and you like run a page that like shits on the government.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good, right? Or if a department makes a post on social media and like members of the public comment on it, and then you go on there and argue with them and say like stupid stuff, it doesn't look good. And
Yeah.
so I think that's where the memo is coming from. But somebody like me that I've always been pretty unfiltered. I know it doesn't look like it because I don't act like a jackass. Some people, when they say I'm no filtered, like they purposefully go out and do stupid stuff and say stupid things.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not an idiot. So that's why I don't look like that. But I've never once shied away from just telling the truth of like what I'm doing and where I'm at in my life. And curse and type out curse words or do whatever. And so like, I don't think I've ever offended anybody. I'm not big enough to do that. I'm not that important. I don't have that many people coming to my page. So my statistics are pretty low. Most of you, if you find me and you follow me, like you either know me or, whatever I'm producing, you like, right?
Right.
I'm not like a huge influencer where there's a broad spectrum of people. Anyways, seeing that memo though, it makes me like nervous because I was like, Dirty Gertie wants to get out of the cage every once in a while and cuss and spit and yell and, speak his mind and like vent about life. And usually there's some wisdom in that. But I'm like, man, if I let him out, I don't want to get fired.
Right.
This new job I worked too hard for. I got to like tone it down and try not to curse as much and try and keep my message focused on, positive, uplifting things and, represent stuff well. But yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, eventually there will be a time and place for that.
Yeah, like that. I'll find a way to fit it in.
Yeah,
exactly. The older I get, the better it'll get because I can start using words that old people use when they don't want to cuss. Like my grandpa used to say "dad gummit." So you gotta get the dadgum thing over there.
Yeah, we had my football coach in he was my football coach in 8th grade, so he was one of the head coaches, I guess assistant coach, and I think it was like offensive coordinator or something like that. But when I went to freshman high school, when I went to high school as a freshman, he was our freshman football coach, and he was also one of the math teachers. I think he taught like algebra, but he was the father of one of a couple friends of mine, and he was a super nice guy, very like, but when it came to football, he was very intense. He would always say like "son of a buck" was one of them, and I can't remember the other one. There's a couple, I have to remember them, but "son of a buck" was a big one. So like he would just say like these things that were so close, and but every now and then he would like, Tiger come out of the cage. When he would actually cuss, you're like, oh shit. You're like, we gotta, he's pissed when he says "son of a buck," but when there was like actually "son of a bitch" or, "motherfucker," you're like, oh fuck. Like you're like, run for the hills.
Dude, I feel like in today's society, if they cursed, they'd be fired and lynched. It'd be, a mob coming to get him.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's not allowed to teach, and he should never be allowed to teach anybody ever.
Yeah, because I remember like my weightlifting coach in high school. He cursed at us a few times. Like the same thing, kind of like what you said. Most of the time he just call you a dummy or something, But then occasionally, like people in the weight room, especially young kids, that do some dangerous stuff. Like he'd lay into them, and it worked. Like he got everybody squared away. But
right,
I don't know. I just feel like today's world, maybe high school is still high school, but yeah, just the cancel culture stuff gets to me sometimes. I'm like, man, everybody stop taking everything so serious.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, laugh about something.
Yeah. Especially
what is it what is it you dingy white broad say? Live, laugh, love, or something like that?
You ever yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about, Mason. Like I'm on a podcast with you. You can't say that.
Hey, you don't say that.
Say that.
Hey, you don't say that.
Yeah. I don't condone that behavior.
Yeah, Brandon doesn't speak for me. He speaks for himself.
Exactly.
I speak for myself.
No, it's especially like some of the comedians I follow, like I'll see them post some hilarious stuff, and then I'll get on the comments and people are like attacking them. I'm like, it's comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy is where you're supposed to address the sensitive issues so we can all laugh about it and then recognize what's right and wrong. Like somebody says something offensive, you laugh at it because it's a funny joke, and they go like, that's not right. That's what should happen. You shouldn't hear it and not laugh and go, we can't let that message be spread. It's like they're not spreading
Oh
that
my
message.
gosh.
They're making
No.
fun of people that are spreading that message,
Yeah, exactly. It's satire, it's a character piece, it's most of the time maybe what 80 or 90% actually true. You know what I mean? Like there's always a little bit of like if you actually listen to these comedians or their podcasts and stuff, you would know like what's real and what's not real. But either way, it's just expression. You know what I mean? Like if you're stupid enough to pay like $5 for some burnt coffee at Starbucks, like you should be able to take a joke. You know what I mean? Like you're paying for a joke every day. You know what I mean? Like come on, like it's really not that big a deal. Yeah, attacking comedians for things is just like I really don't get it.
I saw your story. You had a good coffee experience on your trip.
Oh yeah, bunk ass coffee. I can't remember what that place was called now. Now I'm gonna have to. I think it was called Temple Coffee. Yeah, that was like one of those rants I could have gone on. I could have gone on like a 10-minute rant with that because I just how many people like are just I mean it could be one of those reasons why I've never gotten into coffee. I started drinking coffee when in like my late 20s, and it was just to stay awake at the fire department, because we couldn't have energy drinks around us all the time and it just wasn't easy to get to. But yeah, I started drinking coffee to keep myself awake so I wouldn't get in trouble. And then I only just drank it for just to wake me up. I never drank it for taste. I still
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know what good coffee is really. Like you can give me I know Starbucks is okay, but I know it's not the best. I use a Keurig thing and I have one of those like reusable
Oh, the
things,
cake
those
cake up.
yeah, the pods.
Yeah.
So that way, because I learned from a coffee guy, shout out to Russ. He works for Groundworks, which is like a fancy coffee place. So he knows all about coffee, but he was like, yeah, it's like buying cheap ground beef versus like, Wagyu if you actually like, grind your own beans and stuff. So
Dude,
I did. And he also told me the caffeine content's better. So that's all I cared about was the caffeine content.
I
But
fully geeked out over coffee. I mean, I've always known a decent amount about
yeah,
coffee, but I fully geeked out over it like a little over a year ago. Whenever because I got real heavy like the last couple years into anti-aging stuff
mm,
and obviously health too. But
right.
like, and there's some studies showing that like people that drink coffee daily live longer.
Ah,
So I'm like, there's something there. And then there's a lot of like antioxidant properties and different benefits to it.
right.
And so, but what it all comes down to is like it has to be good coffee. If you're drinking trash, it's bad for you. So I was like,
Right.
oh no. So coffee can be something that can help me live forever, or it can kill me. I got to
Yeah.
know which one I got to drink. I'm not going to screw that up.
Right.
Uh, and so yeah, long story short, I'm gonna. This is actually going to be one of the first articles I write when the website's open,
Okay.
because when it's open, when it launches.
Right.
Because it's something I've really enjoyed, and I got like gadgets and stuff now for it, and yeah, basically you need really good coffee, and I bought a Chemex. Have you seen those?
Yes, I've seen those.
Yeah, so I got a Chemex with their fancy filters, and dude, I never liked black coffee because
Mm.
if you drink crappy black coffee, it tastes bitter and it's horrible.
That's
But
usually
if
all I drink.
yeah, like bitter horrible coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So dude, there's with the Chemex and good coffee, black coffee tastes amazing. It's a whole other experience. Like uh I'll still use creamer every once in a while. I don't put
Right.
sugar in it. And my creamer, if I use creamer, I put like maybe a teaspoon, like just a tiny, tiny amount.
Okay.
But no joke, man, like good coffee through the Chemex, it's like I hold it up and look at the light. It's like golden. Like it almost looks like a dark tea. And it just tastes amazing.
Yeah.
And it just that's what first blew my mind when I started researching it all, because I then had some other crappy like regular grocery store brand,
Hmm.
shitty coffee that we've used before. And I put that through it, and it tasted okay, but like tasted bitter and kind of horrible and whatever else. Then I got the good coffee and ran it through the Chemex filter, and I'm like, dude, this is how coffee's supposed to taste. Like I think I
Mm.
understand it now. This is good coffee.
I'll,
So
I'll I'll have to try it to see.
yeah,
See, but partially also the thing is for me is because Brandon knows I run at about 10 degrees hotter than everybody else. I just don't drink hot beverages.
yeah.
A I
No soup, no coffee.
no soup, no coffee. I burn my mouth every time. For me, when I drink things, I'm drinking them. I'm not sipping them. I'm like, I'm like getting caffeinated, or I'm like getting rid of dehydration. Like those are like my
Yeah.
two modes. You know what I mean? Is like it is to stimulate my brain or to stimulate, my body. So it's like for coffee, I have to have iced coffee or like room temp at the most, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the hottest. So I don't know if I could ever like fully appreciate coffee like that. But yeah, I always just do iced coffee. Usually like ice Americano is like my go-to.
It's kind of funny you approach that like you're like, okay, I just want it to be cold so I could drink it fast to get the caffeine in because I'm just trying to get stimulated.
Yeah.
And that's like that's how Jacob approaches alcohol. So like occasionally like he'll like, oh yeah, I'll have a beer with you because like
Right.
I don't like being drunk. I've never really have. And I've let loose every once in a while. There's moments, right? Like weddings or whatever, like where it's okay, we're gonna celebrate and I'll get on board with everybody. Otherwise, I'm not a big fan of getting drunk. However,
Yeah.
I do enjoy nice scotch, right? Especially with a good cigar. But I'll drink like one glass neat while I'm smoking a cigar, so I'm not like getting drunk off of that. And I do like beer. So like I'll have a couple beers every once in a while. So yeah, Jacob will occasionally, he'll like, oh, I'll have a beer with you or whatever. But usually he's like, where's the liquor? Because there's no point in drinking alcohol unless you're getting drunk.
Right.
So, which is kind of like, there's no point in drinking coffee unless you're getting stimulated. So just give me the high power stuff and I'll just drink it real quick. It's kind of his same approach. He's like, where's the whiskey or the vodka? And let's get this done. That's the point, right? Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I can't be that with alcohol. It just doesn't agree with me.
Yeah, I'm the same. When I'm like, yeah, shots and all that, it's for me, I'm just like, oh, that's a headache.
Yeah,
I usually just like to have beer. It's like I'm always like, all right, I'm just gonna get drunk off of beer, but then I'm like, I want good beer, and then I'm like, I'm gonna be too full. So then usually by the time like I'm a couple in, I'm like kind of buzzed and I'm too full and never mind.
yeah. That's the thing too, man. It's got to be something good. Like, there's only one time I'll drink cheap beer. If
Beer-
I'm doing labor,
beer pong. That's about it.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Labor or the river.
yeah. If I'm doing labor out in the heat or just out in crazy heat, then like ice cold Coors Light still tastes good to me. Still hits the spot. Not Bud Light though.
No.
It's trash.
Yeah. Coors Light's that river beer. It's like you drink like 1,000 while you're in like Havasu, just trying to like dehydrating, but trying not to dehydrate. Basically telling yourself you're not dehydrating, but like like making yourself worse.
Becca and I want to bring that tradition back. Like her family for like most of her childhood, and I even went with them for like 3 or 4 years. But every year they'd spend a week there in the summer, which I know people are like, "What? Why do you go to Havasu in the summer when it's 120 degrees?" But they have a trail over there on the California side, where by the Indian reservation and the casino there, and so they
Blue Water Casino.
It's the only casino on that side. It's like right on the water. But they recently built a new one. It's like brand new. It's massive and it's out there.
Oh, okay.
So, but there used to be a small one, like I swear, maybe 5,000 square feet, like literally right on the water. It's kind of cool. But yeah, they basically have a campsite. So you have like a trailer with air conditioning and tents with air conditioning, which I know sounds like ghetto, but it really isn't. Like it's actually, we stayed in some tents with air conditioning in 120-degree heat, and I was like, this is kind of nice. Like I could do this. But yeah, then just enjoy the river, and then they have a ferry that you can take to go across to Havasu and do the whole thing. But they stopped because Becca's dad and his cousins, like they all got older and we're just like, we're done with this. And so we're like, I think we're going to get the trailer and keep it over there, and then we're going to keep it going so we could bring our kids to it. Oh yeah, I haven't done that on this podcast. Kids, I'm having another one. I told you a long time ago, but I haven't revealed it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, no, I said kids, I haven't revealed on the podcast. I'm having a second one.
Oh,
like you know already.
Yes.
But
yes. I've been knowing.
Yeah, and I posted on Instagram. So if there's like 4 of you that only listen to this podcast on YouTube and don't follow me on Instagram, I'm having another kid. There you go.
Now you know.
I'm excited. I think we're gonna find out the sex at the end of the month. So look forward to that.
Are you gonna
no
want to hear what it is, or are you gonna do the weight and all that? No, I wasn't gonna ask for you to do a gender reveal.
Yeah, see, you know.
I already knew.
Be like those assholes last year that started the fire.
Yeah.
What were they
Fucking
thinking,
assholes.
man? That video, like, let's blow something up in the middle of that kindling that'll light on fire right there. Anyways, no, yeah, we want to know right away. Beck and I aren't a wait and surprise, and we aren't a gender reveal. We're like, go do the ultrasound, tell us what it is, thank you, and then we'll let everybody else know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm gonna do it that same exact way.
yeah, we'll still do the baby shower and we'll still do all the like the fun stuff, but yeah, people like they take it a little too far. I don't know
Yeah.
how anybody would want to do the surprise thing anymore. I'm like, dude, you got to prepare for this. You got to buy stuff. You got to,
Yeah, you gotta,
know,
yeah, colors, man. Like, come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, clothing. I mean, like, I'm not gonna have a little boy and put him in a dress, or
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
little girl
Names.
and yeah. So yeah, no, actually, it's funny on the names because Riley is gender
Yeah.
neutral, right?
Right. Right.
So we actually want to look for other gender neutral names just so they could both have like the same. We're not married
Ah,
to that idea, but we're going to look at those first before we look at the other ones, depending on what it is. But if we picked a gender
yeah.
neutral name now, then it wouldn't matter what the baby is. Then I guess maybe do a surprise. But
Yeah.
nah, I don't. I like knowing. I'm a planner. I'm not. No surprises.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a
This
planner.
this baby was enough of a surprise.
Yeah. Right. You're like, that's the surprise. I'm good with those for the, from now till the next one, or till 18 years from now.
Yep. Oh man, yeah. I've been watching Modern Family. I think I told you last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was the one episode where Phil gets a vasectomy. I was like, it's gonna be me in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not too far away from those years.
I feel you. I'm hoping twin boys, and then I'm gonna go, run my balls into the wall or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go skateboarding and try to do a board slide down like a 7 rail or the 7 stair.
The the idea of twins sounds great, like one and done. But after having one and dealing with
Yes.
that, oh man, I don't know if I could do two at one time. Like having one that's
Yeah.
now kind of grown and throwing tantrums and stuff, and then a baby, like there's enough, in a year or so she'll be older, more mature, she could raise the baby herself,
Right.
but two babies at the same time, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Trust me. I know people are gonna, people get all crazy about it, but I know dogs aren't kids. But yes, definitely having 2 dogs at once can be pandemonium sometimes. But also I just think about it, I'm like, 2 kids at once, just it's you ride that hell for a few years and then it's done.
Dude, I've said it before. If there was a humane way, I'm not saying to do this. Do not do this. Do not do this. This is a joke. If there was a humane way to make kennels for babies, it'd be the same as a dog. Because you could just like, that's really the only difference is you can't put a baby in a kennel for, a few hours and take a break. You got to keep the baby on you and take care of it 24/7.
Yeah.
But if you could kennel a baby, crib is not a kennel, it's different, right? Like,
right.
some sort of AI tech that takes care of the baby for like 3 or 4 hours,
Right.
that's really all you need, and that's the difference. Otherwise, you still with dogs, if they're not kenneled right and you don't know where they're at, like you got to watch them. Like dogs are like toddlers. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So
they really are. Yeah, the little one we have every now and then, I'm just like, when I don't hear anything, I'm like, where is he? I don't see him. I call him. I'm like, I don't hear him. I'm like, fuck. Then I got to go find him because I'm like, he's up to something always.
Yeah, we got stairs in the house, and I gotta keep my eye on Riley.
Oh yeah.
And then I also got to keep my eye on Barkley because he'll go up there and pee. So if I hear the little like his paws like he's going downstairs, I'm like, ah.
Yeah, you're like, damn it.
Yeah. Riley, I'll hear going up and down the stairs because she's not quiet.
Right,
So
right.
it's easy. Come run around the corner. Hey, get back here.
Yeah. Stomping around.
Yeah. We'll be going for an hour and a half, man. Should we call it?
Yeah, I think that's about as good time.
All right. Till next time, you're tuned in to Body Geeks.